Yo, what's good YouTube? This is Dango with you, and today you guys we're gonna be doing the first part of the CRUD operations, and basically that's gonna be creating, reading, and updating and deleting objects. So basically right now what we have in front of us is just the tasks that we're gonna be doing for today, and it's just a brainstorm session. It's gonna just be a minute. If you don't want to watch this, you could just skip, and the steps are gonna be in the description anyways. But that's what we're going to be doing today. Let me show you a previous application that I made over here. Let me show you what we're aiming to do, okay? So let's say I have this simple GUI first. We're going to create a simple GUI first, just a graphical user interface. And then we're going to be adding in just some inputs and just a button that is basically just going to add the task with a function that uh, is going to be an async await function. Basically, it's going to be an async arrow function. It's going to take an await. And basically, we're going to pass in the properties that are in here as HTML attributes. That is the method that I'm going to be applying today. And we're going to be also using something called the spread syntax, which is going to be handling passing in all our properties. This is just a different method. There are a lot of ways you could do this. However, this is just a method for passing in multiple properties to an input here in Ionic TypeScript. And again, that is what we're going to be creating today. So let me show you a demo over here. So let's create a new task. So let's say, for example, drink tea. All right, so as you can see right now, we just have in my old project over here, just an array displaying all the other tasks in this object over here. But I want to show you just the old objects that I created. So since that we're going to be creating a new one, I just want to show you that it's added to the new array over here. All right, so we are going to add in the title drink tea and the task drink green tea, for example. And then you could add in like in the description, like take a 5 minute break, and we're just gonna add this. Let me just close up this array. And the reason that it's doing this a lot because just I have this in the use effect like 2 times, just the development version, so ignore that. But I just want to show you something when we add the task over here. Okay, so we're gonna just add the task right now. And as you can see right now, it's basically telling us here. Let me show you also what I did over here. I have my tester tab over here. It's just the old application that I made. And if we go just to line 173, we are gonna find in create new object over here, the try, and then basically just the console.log of the new to do object results, which is basically the await and just the object itself, the parse object, and we're just saving the new object. So I hope you understood a little bit what basically we're going to be doing today. We're just going to be creating an input just to simplify this at the end of the day. We're just going to be creating some simple inputs with some HTML attributes that are basically going to be passed in as properties to the state, and then after setting that to the state, we're basically just gonna be creating the new object over here, and we're also gonna be saving that with the await over here, which is just a method by parse. So basically we're just gonna be saving the new object which we are gonna be creating as this example, and it's gonna take some properties. Inside these properties, as you can see over here, we have a title, we have a description, we have the task itself, and we have is completed, which is right now false because we did not mark it as completed or not, but it's going to be a Boolean value. And created at, it's going to be a date value, just a new date. So let me show you an example of the properties that I got before. So if you go on top up over here, as you can see, we got just some properties over here. For example, So we have the title just passed in as a string, description as a string, task is passed as a string as well, and is completed is passed in as a property that has a Boolean value, which is basically true or false. And that makes sense because basically all you need from a task is it completed? Like, did I complete the task or did I not complete the task? So that is why we're passing in a Boolean value over here. And we have created at new date. Basically, it's just a date constructor, and we have new over here. It's also related to the date constructor. So basically, we're just creating the new date over here, and it's gonna take the newest date that is basically like the current time right now. When we create the new object, it's gonna be passing in the new date. All right, so this has been like at least 5 minutes. We're brainstorming, and I gave you a demo. So I think we should be starting coding right now. All right. So let's start with basically the homepage GUI. All right. So I don't want to waste your time. So honestly, I'm just gonna copy and paste this from my old project, but I'm gonna explain to you guys, uh, or actually, let me actually, for now, just start with the inputs and we're gonna be continuing on later, okay? So let me just put that to the side and bring up my project. And here's the tools that is from the previous video. So right now we're just logged in, and let's think about it right now. We need just some inputs that are going to be over here. So it's just going to be after the header. We are going to start by basically getting a new grid because we want to organize our inputs. We don't want our inputs to not look good, and we want them organized. So let me just put yep, and that is good for now. So if we do an ion grid, and then inside that ion grid, we're just gonna do an ion row, and we're gonna have an ion column, and we could do just like 2 ion columns for now that are gonna have the size of 6. Size of 6. All right, and we're just gonna alt shift that and just import everything from Ionic React. All right. So inside these ion columns, we're just going to add in something called an ion label. So that is going to be just a label for our inputs. So let's start by basically setting in the title. So let's check that out if we refresh. I think I just need to refresh my, no, actually it's good. So here it is, just the title. It's just a label. So we're just going to add in the input right now. Let's get in the input. And again, make sure you import this. So we could just import everything we need over here if you want to, but you could just import them directly from here if you want to. So first off, the most important thing that we need over here is something gonna be called the name. Why? Because basically this is gonna be the key value for passing the props and knowing which props to pass. Alright, so right now this is going to be the key value for passing the properties, and basically why we're doing the name attribute over here, the HTML attribute over here, because again it is going to help us sort out the properties over here with something called over here that I got the reference for. It's called a spread syntax. It's an operator, basically this. And if you want to check out an example for it, it's basically just a iterable object. So basically it iterates or over the object. So if you have like an example over here, you have a sum of x, y, and z, and we're just returning that sum of that. We got an array that holds that value of 1, 2, and 3. So if we get the sum of the numbers, which is basically the value of the array, We're just iterating, as you could see over here, over the numbers and the sum. Like we're using the sum over here, the sum method, and then we're doing the iteration on the numbers. That's why it's bringing us the output of 6. So that is an example, and there are other examples because it takes an object literal, and that's what we want. And you can also add an array literal, which is going to be helpful as well. And there are function arguments. All right, so let's stop here and continue to the GUI. Okay. Going back to home.tsx, we just need to copy and paste this. Just like, how many times do we need this? So let's think about it for a second. We need a title, and we need basically we need a title. We're just gonna give it the placeholder of title, which is basically the text that it's gonna be appearing over here before, like, you write the input or wherever. And we're gonna give it the type also of text. All right. What else do we want to add? We could give it a class name of home app, for example, home app, and then ion input, for example. Or we could just do simply home app and then dash input. This is just the class name, so you could name it whatever you want, but I'm using the BEM convention, and I should be doing this for all the other classes, but right now we're just going to be doing this for the home app dot input, the home app dash input, I'm sorry, home app and then dash input. So again, like I said, we're just going to copy and paste this 2 more times, and one is going to be the task. Let's actually add the description here and then add the task afterwards. So description, then task. We're just going to change the placeholder, and that is going to be description. And in the placeholder over here, we're going to change it to task. What else do we want to add? Let's just refresh the page. So we have title, description, and task. We just need to add in the labels for that as well. So we got some labels over here. So we're just going to copy and paste it 2 more times. And again, we're going to add these into the columns that we created. So I'm just going to add in one over here. And I'm just going to create one more ion column that is going to have the size of 12. And let's actually put in the task itself here and put in the description in the column. And let me just format the document. All right, and let me explain what I just did. If that was too fast, I apologize. Basically what I just did is I assigned 2 inputs over here with the ion columns over here that has the grid system, which is basically 2 ion columns over here that have the size of 6 that are going to take half of the page. All right, since that all of the page takes the size of 12. So we have task over here that's basically going to take, as you can see, we just need to change the label over here. So task, and we're going to change this label as well. Description. All right. So the task itself, as you can see, takes the whole page. All right. So also we want to add something really simple, which is basically going to be an add button. We just want to add the button right now just to add a task. So let's do that after the task over here. Okay, so let's do that. Let's add in another ion. We could do that. We could also do ion column of size 9, since that I told you it is like 12. So right now you're not gonna see this, but as you can see, there is a space for the 3 over here. So the whole page takes the column size of 12. So as you can see, we still got a little bit of space over here. So we're just going to add the button over here, okay? So let's add the button over here in the Ion column. We're actually going to create, I'm sorry, a new Ion column that is basically going to have the size of 3, like I said, which is basically going to continue the size of the whole page columns, size of 3. And inside that, we're going to add in an Ion button. It's going to take an onClick, and inside it, we're going to have the function, the async function. So create new to do, for example. And right now we have nothing in it because we did not create the function. So we're just gonna be adding that over here. Okay, we're gonna create the new function over here, but let me just remove that alt comment that I made. We're just gonna create that new async function, and before that we just want to set the state variables. Okay, so let's think about it for a second, and also let's just create an empty function right now just to get rid of that error. So we're gonna do const create new to do, and that is gonna be an async function. All right, so let's first off set the state variables and the state action. We already have one over here that is for the user, so we could just get this over here and put it over here just to have everything more organized, and just add it on top of there. Over here is basically we're going to be setting the state for the properties, and we're going to be doing that with setting the state action, and we're going to passing in again to the over here, like the current user over here, like for example the properties is going to be passed there, and then we could use the properties. It's going to be over here to that object, and we could use it for like creating the inputs over here and passing in the properties. All right, so let me just create right now. What are we going to call it? Basically, we could call it new to do and set new to do, and that is going to be taking the use state. All right, and inside that use state, we could just do like, for example, just a string, an empty string, and basically just passing in one property, but that is not what we want to do. We want to be handling the property in a more professional way, or more like it is going to be better for us than actually like setting, like imagine you have like uh, new to do title over here and set new to do title, for example. So if you want to pass in for that method, you're going to have to set a state variable for each and every one of those, and then pass it into the create new to do, which is not going to be very functional in like a multiple properties application. You can do that in a to do application, but I want to show you that just for something new for you guys to learn, and also for me. So we have a use state over here, and basically we're going to pass in the to do class. All right, and inside that to do class, we're just going to open up these curly braces, and we're going to be starting adding in the properties. So we're going to have title over here, and it's going to take just an empty string for now, and description, also an empty string, and also the task is going to be a string. What else do you want to add? We also want to add in a created at property. We could make it time created, like for example, and we're just gonna do something over here. It's gonna be called new, and then date. which is going to be basically a date constructor. Let me just double check the syntax over here from my old project. So we have the tester tab over here, and if I just go into my created at, it is going to be a new date, but I just forgot to pass in the brackets over here. And we're also going to be adding in updated at that is going to be used at later. So updated at new date as well, and we just need to add in a comma over here. So right now, as you can see, we just created the properties that basically we're going to be passing in. And again, this is a better method than just like creating in each and every like state action and then an object that is basically you're going to pass into here the new async function that we're going to make. It's going to take you just like it's going to make the project a little bit messy, so this is just a better way to do that. Okay, or alternative method just to clarify. Alright, so we gotta create new to do over here, and we could right now start the async function. And let's think about it for a second. Let me check out what I did over here before. And if I just check out what I did over here before, you're gonna also find like there is an example on the to do back for app docs of how you could just create a new object using the old method I told you about, which is basically just passing in each and every state action, which is again viable for a to-do list because you don't need to do each and every one of this if you don't want to, but this is just a different one. So if I go into the create new to-do object, you are going to find that basically I just did two things over here, or three things just to be exact. So we have, let's start from the top over here. I just created a new parse object that is basically going to create the new to do object over here. Let's just change this to new to do. All right. It's going to take that new to do object, and we're going to then set that new to do object with the parse method of set with the properties. And why are these empty? Because basically, you guys, we are just going to be passing in again the await new to do save over here, which is going to save in these properties. And do you remember the HTML attributes that I mentioned at the top at the beginning of the video? It just is gonna take the properties over here, but we need to just do one last thing to make sure that these properties are passed correctly. We need to handle the new to do basically inputs over here. So basically we're going to be iterating over the to do properties over here. So we're basically iterating over the previous value, and then we're going to update it with the new event that target that name with the parameters over here. It's gonna be an array, and we're also going to be passing in the event that target that value, which is basically going to be the inputs that are over here. So if we go back into my example over here, we're going to also be doing the OnIonChange, okay? So let's do that. So we could do OnIonChange, and inside that IonChange, we could just do handle new to do change like I made before. All right, right now it's just gonna be empty because we need to create the function, and we're just gonna async function. Okay, just a second. I don't need that error right now. All right, I just want to get the error away, and right now we just want to do that for all the other inputs. Okay, So we're just gonna add into that other input. And there's one last thing we could do. Basically, we could just change this ion input to an ion text area. And let me tell you how to check if you basically want to know if like this HTML attribute is passable to your HTML tag or not. So let me just remove all of this and import the ion. I'm just double checking the ion. Yeah, it is ion text area. So I don't know why this is getting an error. Yep, I think we missed this. Okay, what is happening here? We just need to remove this because this is not an input anymore. And let's just check out right now back uh, the app, because we want the task to be like basically like a text area that's going to be a little bit bigger than the inputs itself. So as you can see right now, you can't see it because there's like a lot of text, but let me just copy and paste this. Yeah, as you can see right now, we could just like add in a lot, but we actually need that in the description if you think about it. We need that in the description. We don't need that in the task itself. We don't need all that area in the task itself. So let's just change that and get the text area and just change it over here instead of the description, or we could just keep it as it was, get the ion label of description and change the task over here, and just make sure we change the name over here to task and change the name over here to be description. Alright, let's refresh that. And we could just change this to home app text area. And let's just create a new, do we have an old CSS file? Yep, we do have an CSS file, but it is empty right now. Make sure it is imported. And let's just do something. If you see right now, I don't want this to be uh, like, let me show you. There's something called a tar resize none, and basically we don't want this to be resized. But I think right now that the ion description or the ion text area does not have a problem with the basically like extending this text area, so we're just gonna keep it like this for now. Okay, and we're gonna be creating the async function over here right now, and also just passing in the handle into the change in the ion. We just did that, and make sure of the name, which is basically again gonna be the key. All right, just reformat that, and in terms of the button of the adding over here, we could just do a little bit of colors. We could just add in some colors, and let me show you something. If we just add in a plus over here, could do it the color of success, for example. So we could add in this little simple button over here, but we could do a little bit better than that. So let's just give it the expand of block. So we'll just have it the display of block, and as you can see right now, it is bigger, takes out the whole area of the column of 3, and inside that we are going to be adding in something called an ion icon. And if you again want to check out the ion icons, you could just do a quick Google search to Ionic icons, and let's say I just want a new uh, add button, like a new add, like we want over. So we want this, for example. This looks simple. We could also use this. So let's just search add, and right now you could choose one of these. You could choose this, or this looks pretty cool. You could also use the filled ones and the sharp ones. So let's let's get the full ones. I think these ones look good. All right, so as you can see right now, we have the name of add circle. Okay, so we're just gonna be importing the icon right now. Okay, so if I go into the Ion icon, I'm just gonna do icon equals to, open up curly braces, and then that's gonna be add circle. Syntax is gonna be a little bit different because this is just a different syntax for Ionic, for Ion icons, uh, and this is the syntax that we want. So let's check out right now our application, and right now the button looks like there, the plus is there, you know what I mean, but I do not like how it looks, so we could just add in the just the normal add one and just import that, make sure that it is imported. So as you can see, it is just imported over here. Okay, and if you do not have that in your Visual Studio Code, you could just import, you could just copy the syntax and just add it, which is basically just the Ion icon. Okay, go back into the Ionic app, and right now the button looks a little bit better. Keep it on 100. Yep, 100%, that is good. What else do we want to add? Okay, that looks good for now. But we just want to change the placeholders because we switched that, if you guys remember. So we're just gonna switch out the placeholders. Press that, and that is pretty much it. Right now, the layout is not looking bad at all, but we just want to add in the styling for the application itself. All right, so I just want to remove this Ion title, and I could just change it to home. I'm gonna change this Ion text, remove it. Okay. What else do we want? I want to remove this Ion title as well, and just remove this Ion toolbar. We don't need this Ion toolbar anymore. We could just add in the Ion header, and yep, that is all we need right now. What else do we want to add? We could add in just a display area like for our tasks later on, but right now we're just going to be creating the tasks. Okay, so inside the async arrow function, let's start basically creating the async arrow function. Okay, so again, I'll go over here just to keep it as simple as possible. And just a few more moments, you guys, and just that I'm gonna just get the the create new to the object over here. All right, so we are just gonna create a new const that is gonna be new to do. All right, and that is gonna be basically a force dot object. Okay, and basically in that parse dot object, as you can see, we're just gonna be doing new, and we're gonna pass in the class name, which is basically to do. This is the class name that is going to be in your database. Okay, so let's just add that just as a comment. To do is a class name in your back4app DB. Okay, and we're going to pass in, as I said before, just the new to do All right, and we're gonna right now set the properties for the new object that we're gonna be creating, and basically that is gonna be just the 1 second. So let's do something a little bit different. Just let's make this to new to do object and set new to do object just for more clarification, because over here we're just setting in the new to do object, and we want this new to do to be a new to do parse object, for example. I could just do this. It's a little bit long, but just to understand that. And then we're just gonna be setting in the properties with the new to do parse object. Again, it is just gonna be the properties we pass over here. But if we console.log, this is not gonna work right now because we do not have the handle the new to the handle async function that is basically gonna take the like these three dots, which is basically gonna iterate all over our properties over here, which I mentioned at the beginning of the video. And just to remind myself and you guys, it is called, just 1 second, the spread syntax. Yeah, the spread syntax is an operator. Okay, so let me just console.log the new to do parse object. All right, and console.log the new to do object. All right, so let's try and add in a task right now. It is not going to work again, like I said, because the properties are still not handled in the handle new to do change. But let's try. So we got a title of jog, for example, or let's actually make it simple as like meditate. Task is meditate, meditate, meditate today, for example. Description is meditate for 3 minutes outdoors, for example. Okay, and if we click the button right now, as you can see, we have the new object and it's created, but it is empty because, again, like I said, we did not pass in the properties with the handle the new to do change. And again, like I said, this is gonna handle passing in the properties over here by just iterating over them and just passing them to update the previous state of them. So this is the previous state. I just wanted to show you this. This is the previous state. Right now we have an empty description, an empty title, and basically just the time created and the time updated, but everything else is empty. Even if we check out this, you can see right now that it is still undefined and it is also empty. So we're just going to be creating the new handle new to the change. Again, I'm sorry I explained a little bit too long, but I just want to make sure that we explain everything that I'm doing. I don't want to be just writing code for you guys. I'm trying to explain as much as I can with the references that I have over here. And at the beginning of the video, I mentioned to you guys, if you want to know what properties you could pass to your HTML attributes, you could just go into the Mozilla Developer Web Docs over here, Mozilla Developer Network Web Docs, and just search whatever attribute you want to check for. Like, for example, if I search name a couple of times over here, you're going to find the name property, and it's going to show you the HTML tags that it accepts, because there are some HTML tags that are not going to be accepting this. But as you can see over here, these are all the HTML tags that are going to accept this attribute. Okay, so let's start by iterating over the object right now. So if we check out again our old example, just to remind myself, we are gonna be basically passing in a normal function that is gonna be an arrow function, so I apologize for that. And we're just gonna be calling that handle new to do. Yep, handle new to do change. It's gonna take an event. You can also call this E if you want to, and an arrow function, and basically just curly braces. And we're gonna set the new to do object that we created over here, which is gonna be the setStateAction, and it's gonna take the previous, like I said, the previous state that we want to update the object of, and we're gonna pass in right now normal brackets. Just 1 second. Yep, just normal brackets, and inside that we're just gonna pass in a curly braces. So right now we're gonna iterate over the object, and the error is gone. And basically we're just iterating over the previous, and as you can see over here, since that we're iterating over the set new to do object, and we're passing in this value over here that's going to be mapped through this arrow over here, this arrow. And basically we're going to be passing in right now the users events, and that is done dynamically. As you can see, that is the end target of the video, is just to do this dynamically and handle the properties dynamically. So as you can see right now, so let me just double check if there's anything that I'm missing. Right now there is not. So compile that, and let's right now go to the Ionic app. Okay, so let's refresh that. So if we create a new title right now, let's create a new title, eat dinner, for example, eat a pizza. And then inside that description we're gonna be adding eat only 2 slices of pizza, for example. Okay, and let me just add in the button, but let me just click the button, but check out the console.log. That is very important. So let's do that. Console.log. And right now, as you can see, in line 55 and line 56, just let me show you what I did over here. We are not getting any value, like it's not showing us anything other than that there is an object of parts over here that has a count of 1, but the ID is undefined, and everything else is passed in over here just in this object state over here. But we want to show it as a string over here. We want to show it basically just in this normal JSON string over here. So just to do that, we passed in the new to do object at the beginning of the video, which is the state variable over here, and we passed that into the state action, passing in the properties, the use state. Again, let me just put in the, or actually let's keep it like this for now. Just keep it on top of here just to be more organized. And we did the new async function for creating the new to do. It's going to take a to do, title, description, task, time created, updated at, and we're passing in that to the new to do object. So if I just refresh that, and let me just close this console.log and add in a new task. Let's add run 5 miles, run 5 miles from south to north, for example. So I just want to show you again that we can create also another task, and we're getting over here the object, everything that is basically Where is it? Here it is. Run 5 miles from south to north, run 5 miles, run 5. And that is in the new to do object, not the new to do parse object, because over here it's not still stringified. And finally, guys, we did the handle new to do change, which is going to take the event of just a parameter. It's going to take any, and we're setting the new state action over here to a previous parameter, which is basically going to take in all the properties in the to do JSON over here, all the properties that it's going to be basically the class name, and it's going to iterate over it from the previous value of basically an empty value, as you can see, just an empty value over here, to the new state that is basically going to be the event target name, which is basically the HTML attributes, and this is the one that organizes the properties. So that's why it knows it should be passing in over here the description and the task and the title. So that is why we have the HTML over here, the HTML parameter mentioned over here, and we also have the event.target.value, which is basically going to take the value of the input itself of the user and match it to the array over here. And again, that is all going to be happening inside the new to do object. So that is pretty much it for the create new to do objects. I know that was a long video, and you could again make this in a shorter way. You guys do it in a normal way of basically just passing in these 3 properties. But again, imagine if your application has like 20 properties. So right now, if you have 20 properties in your application, you're gonna have to do 20 of these. So let me show you like an example. So like if you have 20 of these, your application is basically right now it looks a little bit ugly. So that's why we did this method. That looks a lot more better, and it is better for handling actually your application. It is more simpler to handle it this way. And that is pretty much it for the creating the new to do object. So that is going to be part 1 of the CRUD enabled application. And next we're going to be basically updating these tasks that we created over here. So I want to make sure that I just get this correctly for you guys with the type of properties that I mentioned over here. But if you have any other questions, if you want to also check out the Back4 app documentation for some more simpler explanation than what I did over here. But again, that's why I'm telling you we're passing in the properties over here in this way, because again, assuming you have multiple properties other than this is going to be very easy to handle instead of just creating multiple state variables and passing in that to each useStateHook. Alright, so this was AnguEDU, and this was part 4 of the to-do application. So comment, like, and subscribe, you guys, and I'm going to see you guys in the next video, which are basically going to be reading. We're not going to be updating, so I'm sorry, I'm going to take this in the correct order. I just said updating, but we're going to be doing this in the correct order, which is going to be creating, reading, updating, and then deleting. So in the next video, it is going to be reading. Alright, so comment and like and subscribe, you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video. This was AnguEDU, and peace, you guys.